Alright guys, here we are in Photoshop. I have opened here the Crescent Nebula. I have 3 files opened here. I got one RGB. I did use the L Extreme filter, so I stacked each one of these in Astro Pixel Processor. The first one I did an HA03 color stack, and that's what this one is. And then I did a combined RGB with the HA extract, O3 extract, and O3 mono, and I combined those to create this. And now this, I did let APP do an auto stretch on this, and then I have the HA auto stretch also. This is my current workflow. This is the way I process every image, so we're going to jump right into it here. We're going to start with the RGB layer. And what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go up here to image mode, and we're going to change this to a 16-bit channel. And right here where it says local adaptation, we want to move this to exposure and gamma. Click OK. Do image size, and we're going to change this to 18 inches wide, and we're going to do a resolution of 300 ppi. Click OK. Now we're going to go on to the next one. Okay, so first we're going to jump over here to the RGB, and I'm going to do a threshold layer here. And we're going to slide this slider over until we see something like this. And this will show us the darkest areas in the picture here. So I'm going to zoom in somewhere in here using my eyedropper tool on a 5x5 average. I'm going to hold down shift and just click on a dark area here, and this will show me my background levels here. So that's a little high, so we're going to delete our threshold layer, and I'm going to go ahead and make 2 copies. Okay, so what I'm going to do first, I'm going to bring these levels right here from 43 down. I'm going to move this over here. I'm going to click here on my levels tab, and we're just going to slide this slider until those numbers reach 19. Okay, so we're going to stamp a new layer here by holding Control, Alt, Shift, and E, and that will make a new layer with everything below here. Okay, so now we're going to do a curve stretch here. So we're going to click curves, and we're just going to bring this up to 30 here on these numbers here. Okay, stamp a new layer, and then we're just going to do back and forth levels and curves adjustments to get our histogram. You see how skinny these lines are? We want these spread out more. The more you stretch, the more these bars will spread out. We're just going to keep going with it. We're going to do levels and curves, bringing down our levels back to 19 or 20, it's fine. Stamping a new layer in between each iteration here. Okay, now we can look at our histogram. You can see that these bars are starting to spread. The red is a little wider than the green. We're going to move this over here. We're going to open up a levels adjustment here. Let's look at the green. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide this over, and you can see that spreading that green bar out. Okay, now we're going to go to our blue. Now that looks pretty good. We're going to just hide this over here. We're going to do one more stretch here. Okay, so what we're going to do now, okay, so here's our HA layer. If we go back here to our RGB and we open the red panel. What I want to do, I want to try to get this red to be as bright as this, which it's almost there, I think. So we're going to go back to our RGB, and we're going to do one more curve stretch here to try to get it as bright as that. Okay, we're going to check our red channel. Let's look at our HA. Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do now, if we zoom in here, look at our red channel, and look at our HA. The HA is actually a little cleaner. They're about the same in noise, actually. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna take our red channel here, and we're gonna Control A, Control C, and we're gonna open up a new file here. And whatever you copied, it will automatically set the correct width and height of whatever you copied. So we're just gonna click OK, create. And we're going to Control V, and we're going to paste that right on a new layer here. So we'll go over here to levels or layers, and we're going to flatten the image here. Or we're left with the red channel of the RGB file. We're going to make a copy of this, and we're going to go over here to the HA. We're going to Control A, Control C, come over here to this to the new file here, and we're going to Control V and paste it right there. So what we're going to do now, we're going to lower this opacity down to 50%. So what that does, that creates kind of like you're adding that HA data into your red channel here. So now we have the HA on top at 50% opacity and the RGB red channel right here. So we're going to shift click right there, and then right click and merge these layers. Okay, so now we're going to Control A, Control C. We're going to go back over to the RGB, go in here to the red, and you're going to paste this in your red channel. Okay, so Control V. Okay, so now we're going to click RGB, come out here to layers, and we're going to Control V and paste that right on top, and we're going to switch this to luminosity here. And what that does, that uses your HA data as a luminosity layer. You can see how much that just brightens the whole image overall. That's a little drastic change there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to lower this opacity, and we're going to bring it down to about 45%. Here's the before and after. You can see it just really highlights all that hydrogen alpha. It adds a little depth. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to go ahead and stamp a new layer here. Okay, now I'm going to make a copy of this layer, and I'm going to go ahead and open up filter, camera filter, try to do just a little bit of noise reduction here. And what Camera Raw is, it's a plugin for Photoshop. If you have Photoshop, you have Camera Raw too. They kind of work together in sync. You can jump back in between Camera Raw and Photoshop. So I always color noise reduction here. I'll zoom in here and come down here to the details tab, and you want to slide this color noise slider. I like to go about 20% or so, and we're now in Camera Raw. So we're gonna click OK. All this color noise disappear here like magic. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and flatten the image. Okay, and what I'm gonna do now is run this through a software called Starnett++, and what it does, it actually will create an image with no stars, and you're left with only the nebula gas and all that. So I'm gonna go up here to File, and we're gonna save as. Okay, and we're gonna go save on your computer. Okay, and we're going to go up here to Desktop and find our Starnett folder, which is right here. And you just want to save this inside of the Starnett folder. So I'm going to use Crescent Nebula RGB Session 1, Session 2. Click Save. You don't want to compress it or anything, you want it to be exactly the same. So, okay, now that it's saved, you can actually open up your Starnett folder, and your file should be in here. Right here it is. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to grab and drag it right over top of RGB Starnett here, right here. Usually takes about 25 minutes or so, so I will pause the video and come back when this gets finished, and we will continue on. Okay, whenever Starnett finishes, I'm actually gonna go ahead and delete this. We don't need this anymore. Okay, so we're gonna go up here, we're gonna open, and we're in our Starnett folder here. And here it is. Okay, and Starnett doesn't do a perfect job. It does really good most of the time, but it does leave these little artifacts here sometimes. So I like to take the spot healing tool. And the way you do that, you just click on the spot healing tool here and adjust the size. And you just zoom into these spots here, like this right here. You just click on that like this, and it just makes the spot disappear just like that. Like magic. So I like to take a little bit of time to just go around the image here and just delete all these artifacts left over from Starnett. Okay, so whenever you get done cleaning it up here, I like to do a threshold layer here just to get our background levels. I'm just going to shift click on a dark spot here, and here's our background levels. So we're going to delete the threshold, and we're going to do a levels adjustment, and we're just going to bring these numbers back down to 20. Okay, now we're going to Control Alt Shift and E. Now, without the stars in here, I'm going to go ahead and do a curve stretch here. One more. Okay, Control Alt Shift and E to stamp a new layer. We're going to bring these levels in one more time. I think that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to create a copy of this layer. We're going to go over here to our star version, and we're going to Control A, Control C, go over here to our starless, and we're going to Control V, and we're going to paste that right on top. Okay, and we're going to change our blending mode here to pin light. And you can see it lets only the brightest stars through, but it kind of just places them on there. So what I'm going to do, I am going to shift click here, right click, and you merge these two layers. We Control A, Control C, we go back to our RGB, Control V, and now we can zoom into the stars here, and we lower the opacity. I like to go probably about 50% here. Okay, let's actually go ahead and shift click, and we're going to merge these layers. Okay, now we can look at the before and after. Before and after. Okay, so I think this completes our RGB. Now I'm going to go back here to my HOO stack here, and I'm going to do the same thing I just did to the other image. I'm just going to go around, do curves and levels adjustments, and end up at a place where I'm happy with the brightness. I'm going to speed the video up so you don't have to watch me redo everything we just did. Okay, when we get to a point where we're happy with how bright it looks, we're just going to take this layer now. That blue channel is just too much, so what we're going to do, make a copy, go up here to curves, and we're going to select our blue channel, and we're just going to bring this down just a little bit. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, Control Alt Shift and E. I'm going to make a copy of this layer. On the top, I'm going to change that to luminosity. On the bottom layer here, I'm going to change it to soft light. You can see that just really made those colors pop. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go up here to Image Adjustments. We're going to go here to Vibrance, and we're going to stay on this layer here, and we're going to bump up the vibrance, something like that, and we're going to bump up the saturation to like 9. Click OK, and that's making that blue color just kind of pop there. I'm not really worried about this yellow too much. I'm just looking at this blue here. So I'm going to go to Adjustments, Vibrance. We're going to do another iteration here. 40. Let's go up on the saturation here to 24. Okay, that looks good. Okay, that's a little over saturated, but that's okay. What I'm gonna do now is go up here to Image Adjustments. We're gonna do a curves. I'm just gonna do a slight S curve here, just to make that blue kind of pop a little more. So now I'm going to go over here to Filter, Blur, and we're going to do a blur on this under layer here. And we'll do a blur of, let's get about 4 pixels here. Okay, so now we're going to Control Alt Shift and E to stamp a new layer. Now we're going to take our finished RGB. Control A, Control C, and we're gonna paste it right on top of this right here. Control V. Okay, so now what I can do is I'll go back in here with this eraser tool. I'm going to set my opacity as something like 50%, my flow at about 50%. Let's get a smaller brush here. Now we're just going to zoom in here, and we're going to erase wherever we want that blue. Maybe we'll lower this down just a bit more, say 20. Maybe get some of that yellow to come through a little bit. Okay, there's not a whole lot of oxygen gas in this. I think that's pretty much it. So I think I'm happy with that. But you get the idea. You can blend that in to affect only the areas that you really want that blue gas to come through. Everything else, I like it. I think this is probably pretty close to my finished image here. Stamp a new layer. What I like to do also is we're gonna go ahead, and I have the Astronomy Action tool set here. It is a paid plugin for Photoshop. I use it all the time. It does a great job for all kinds of things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on local contrast enhancement here. First I'm going to make a copy. So local contrast enhancement. That's just going to add us a little more pop and clarity. Okay, now let's see the before and after. You can see that really added a lot of contrast. That, in my opinion, is a little extreme, so what I like to do is lower this opacity to something like 35%. Real subtle. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, also in the Astronomy Action toolset, is an action here called Star Diffraction Spikes Fat Stars. So what I like to do, I'm going to stamp a new layer. Okay, now I'm going to click the Star Diffraction Spikes Fat Stars, and I'm going to click press play. And that's going to add some diffraction spikes on these brighter stars. Hopefully it will give us a good effect. Just depends on how bright your stars are. Sometimes it doesn't give you a great effect, but other times it's real subtle, and I really kind of like that effect. In my opinion, it kind of, if your star is just a little blowed out, it will kind of help to cover up that a bloated star. So I kind of use it like that in that sense, because I always feel like my stars are a little too bright, and this kind of just helps with that. Okay, it did a great job. You can see that it's very subtle, or only on the biggest stars here. And overall that looks pretty darn good if you ask me. Now these kind of take away from the nebula here. So what I'll do, I'll take my eraser brush, 100% opacity. Actually, let's lower that down to 75% opacity. Flow 50%, and we're just gonna go right over those really bright ones here, right in the nebula. We want just a real subtle effect. You can see we're leaving just a tiny bit just around those edges. Okay, very subtle. We're gonna go ahead and flatten the image. So now that we've got all our layers layered back on top, we can go ahead and crop. I'm gonna bring it down to about here. Let's go over to about there. Crop it in about like that. There we go. Now I'll probably go around and maybe do some dodging and burning here a little bit. And the way you do that, you click here, here's the dodge tool, and we're going to keep it on an exposure of 4%, and we're going to go around our highlights first, and we're just going to just click on the highlights. And you can see the before and after here. You can see it makes those pop a little more. Okay, now we're going to change this to shadows, and we're going to go around and we're going to dodge our shadows to try to bring those up a little bit, to add a little depth. You can see when I turn that off and on, you can see those shadows really popping right there. So I'm going to go around to all the shadow highlights here and just kind of make those pop. Now let's toggle it on and off. And you can see all the highlights here. We're just kind of trying to add some depth. Yeah guys, that's pretty much it. That's my workflow, and that's pretty much what I use on every image. This is about what I would consider a finished image of this target. If you like the video, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps me out, and it really helps to push this video out to other people. And I don't know, what do you guys think about doing the Hubble palette and the RGB that I used here, and how I combine it together? What do you guys think about that? Have you ever seen anybody else do it this way? I'm kind of curious to see if anybody else has tried this. I have great results doing it this way, and yeah, everybody always seems to ask me how I get the colors I get and all that in my final image, and this is pretty much it. This is how I do it. And yeah, so hopefully somebody got something out of this, and I'll probably spend a little more time working on this. And yeah, but for you guys get the gist of it. Yeah, until next time guys, clear skies.